Hey everyone, David Chen here, and today on the YouTube channel, I'm going to be speaking with filmmaker Megan Griffiths. Megan's newest film, Sadie, is out on video on demand right now. Here's a clip from the trailer.
Hey Dad, got your letter. I wrote a paper for class where I tried to imagine my life as a soldier with you. Mr. Lee will probably hate it. Teachers can't handle violent stuff even though it's literally everywhere. Miss you, Sadie.
I saw the letter from your dad. I thought he'd be coming home this time too.
Sadie is a really unique take on the coming-of-age story that has a great cast, and I'd recommend anyone check it out on video on demand. Getting your indie film made is difficult, and getting people to watch your indie film is arguably just as difficult, especially if you don't have a massive marketing budget or a big studio backing you. In today's conversation, I speak with Megan about 5 ways you can get ready to distribute your movie independently, which is what she did with Sadie. Now, before we begin, I just want to make 2 quick disclosures. Number 1, if you watch Sadie and you go all the way to the end, at the end of the credits, you might notice a familiar name there. Me, David Chen. Hey, I'm there. I had the pleasure of working with Megan to take behind-the-scenes photos of Sadie, and I had a great time doing that, but wanted to mention up front that I am in the credits of the film that we're going to talk about. Second thing I want to mention is that Sadie is streaming right now on Amazon Prime Video. You should go check it out there. I currently work for Amazon, but my views expressed here are always my own and do not represent those of my company. So with that out of the way, enjoy my conversation with Megan about how to get people to care about your indie film. Hey, it's Dave Chen, and I'm here with Megan Griffiths, the writer-director of Sadie. How are you doing today, Megan?
I'm good.
Great to have you, and we're here to talk about distributing your movie independently or doing it by yourself. So a lot of people don't understand that when you're making an indie film, getting the movie financed and made is only about half the battle, right?
Yeah.
After you get the movie made, you need to actually get people interested to watch the movie and then deliver it to them in a format that they can actually watch it, whether it's video on demand or in theaters.
Yeah.
So when you finished making Sadie, what was some of the decision-making that went into figuring out how to distribute the movie?
Well, so we premiered at South by Southwest in 2018, and we did sort of receive these traditional offers, and none of them really excited us that much. There was kind of felt like a disconnect in the conversations we were having between us and the distributors about how to put the movie out and the way to frame the conversation around the movie that just went against the whole reason that we had spent so many years trying to get Sadie made in the first place, because it was a long journey. It was like 8 years. So we just made the decision to, sort of not lightly, because it is a lot of work. We talked to a lot of filmmakers who had gone through the process of distributing their own films and decided that we were going to take it on. And it was, we just embarked upon this year-long journey.
When people were giving you offers and you said it wasn't quite a good fit, like what were some of the reasons that it wasn't a good fit? Like what were some of the reasons that you felt they weren't going to honor the movie?
We made it to start a conversation about youth and violence, and it seemed like the prevailing idea was, let's just market it as like a bad seed thriller, because it's this young girl in it who ultimately behaves fairly inappropriately. And so I just felt like the way that people were talking about marketing it was simplistic, and didn't sort of honor the larger cultural conversation I wanted the film to provoke. And who knows, retrospect, you just don't know what whose decision would have been stronger or would have resulted in different numbers for the movie or whatever. But it was just important to me and my producers that we at least try to frame it in this way that we could host these conversations. Another major thing was that we wanted to do an academic tour for the film, because we wanted to bring it to, we'd had an experience where we'd screened it for young people. We had a high school screening of the film and had this amazing conversation with these young people who totally got the themes and really engaged with the characters and were really invested in it. And it was a really sort of intoxicating experience, and I wanted to repeat it. But every distributor we talked to was like, oh no, we were not going to do an academic tour. That's too much work. It's outside of their normal sphere, and so they don't want to go that direction. And we really wanted to do that, so that was a major factor too. This is my 6th feature, and I've been through a traditional distribution experience a time or two in my life, and it has been kind of disempowering experience because you spend so much time and energy and passion trying to get the movie made in the first place. And then when it gets out into the world, you feel like not only is the person who's distributing it not putting that same passion into it, but you're sort of cut off from being able to get in there and get your hands dirty and do all the things you want to do because they have a process and they don't really want to mix it up too much. And so we really wanted to empower ourselves to do it the way we sort of felt like we could have done it on other movies.
If people out there, right, are making their own movies, they're thinking about how to get people to see their movie, what is the advice that you have for them? What are the things they should consider as they're about to start on this journey for themselves?
Okay, I'd say step one is determining what's important to you about how to get your movie out into the world and what you want it to be saying to people. Sort of structuring the conversation around the movie, making sure that our marketing materials were reflecting how we wanted the movie to be seen by people, and just making sure that like the reasons that we made the movie were clear and right. Coming through.
You, like if you're out there, you're making a short film or a feature-length film, you're doing it for a reason. There's something you want to say to the world, right? So number one is figure out what that is, be really clear on that, be really crisp on like what is the message you want to say with the film and how you're going to use the distribution plan to say that message.
Right. If it's important to you, the way the movie comes out, I think it's important to like focus on that message and then figure out how that translates to all the different ways that you're talking about it.
Right.
Trailer, poster, all the different materials.
So step two. Thing number two to think about is
budgeting.
Budgeting. How much money do you have, right? How are you going to get the team to assemble to get this thing out into the world?
Right, because there's so many different ways to do this. Like, we decided we were going to bring in a team of people. We were looking for someone who could be our theatrical booker, we ended up hiring this woman, Mia Bruno, who was more of a sort of holistic distribution strategist. She booked our theaters, but she also was designing an impact campaign, which is like going to individual communities where after the film is booked to make sure that like organizations that might resonate with the themes of your movie are aware that it's playing, maybe doing talkbacks or Q&As or post-film discussions with the people from those organizations. So she was doing a lot of that. We also had an academic outreach person named Anna Fetter, a company called Thin Pig that did digital marketing and social media management for us. And we had an intern. And then we had a publicist brigade, Adam Kership Brigade, who was our publicist for our South by Southwest premiere. So if you have the budget to assemble a team of experts, that's how we had some money set aside from our production budget, and we had some money that we got from Amazon, who did our subscription VOD, our SVOD release. And so we had money to work with. We had a little pot, and we were able to that empowered us to make the decision in the first place.
So step two is budgeting, making sure you either have the right team, can pay the right people, or do things yourself.
Yeah.
What comes next?
Step three is determining your release strategy. And there's still a lot of conversations that you have to continue that revolve around numbers. And so, trying to figure out if you're going to play in theaters and how important that is to you, what it's going to cost you, because most people end up spending more money on their theatrical release than they make. And doing things like tastemaker screenings where you're aligning with other groups, or you're putting your movie in, like having an event over one night. We did one with the Gina Davis Institute that was fantastic, and we had all of our actors and Mike McCready, who did the score, come and do a Q&A, and then we had a little like cocktail hour afterwards, and people who were part of the Gina Davis Institute came out and were introduced to the movie and then talked about it like on social media. And that's the goal, is like you're trying to get people in the room who haven't seen the movie yet or didn't know about the movie, but might be interested in this kind of story that you're trying to tell, that will then go like sort of be an ambassador for your movie out in the world. But those aren't free ever, or typically they're not. And so you're trying to figure out how many of those you want to do, right, how many audience members you want to sort of use up while on these free screenings that you're doing to raise awareness, or how many people you're trying to get to like come out and pay for it in the theater. Right. So there's that. There's whether you want to continue your festival run after you've decided to do your own release? Like, are you mining new audiences, or are you tapping
Are you
audiences?
cannibalizing audience that
Exactly.
you would otherwise get with showing the film at festivals?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So there's a lot of choices. This is all part of determining your release strategy. So getting into the weeds on all these decisions, deciding if you want to do an academic tour like we did. There's a lot of different ways to get your movie out.
Once you figured out a release strategy, what comes next?
Step 4, I guess I would call it, it would be building your online presence, and making sure you have a good website and it's like search engine optimized and all those
Right.
things. And then we started doing a newsletter every month, to make sure, actually like twice a month, that would alert people to like milestones in our movie's life, like when we're going to release, we're coming up on the theatrical, make sure you tell your friends in New York and LA and all that stuff. And make sure you have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, some of the rest of them. We just did those 3, and that they're aligned and they're talking about the same things, and you're trying to build your audiences in all those worlds.
Mm-hmm. So having a good online presence, great way to engage with audience.
Yeah.
Existing and potential new audience, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, what's step 5?
Step 5 is building the buzz, making people aware that your movie exists. Utilize all of these things that you've already done in this process, where you've like hired all these great people, and you're attracting all these new faces to your social media profile and all this stuff. And then like, how do you translate all of that interest into people actually walking out the door and buying a ticket at the theater, or if they're at home, buying on iTunes, or eventually down the road, streaming it on Amazon, which is what they can do now. You're attending all these screenings. You're doing as much press as you possibly can get. So I guess some people may be more choosy about like who they talk to, but like I figured any conversation I could have about Sadie might yield another viewer. So for me, it was like, if I had the bandwidth to do it, I would do it.
I mean, you've appeared on this very low rent YouTube channel, so
Yeah.
clearly you have
So
no
at least
standards.
one person has to watch it to make this worth my time.
Yeah. So basically, you're out there hustling. You're doing Q&As. You're talking with people.
Yeah.
You're meeting with people. Evangelizing on behalf of the movie.
For sure. Yeah. I traveled between August and December of last year. I was home 18 days because I traveled so much for Sadie. And that was almost entirely Sadie, with the exception of 1 week that was a different project. I was like on the road for Sadie. I was going to academic screenings. I was going to theatrical screenings. I was doing podcasts. I was doing, phone interviews. I was sitting down with people. I was just out in the world trying to get people to care about this movie.
Incredible. So at the end of all that, you've done all that, right? You've done figured out what's important to you, budgeted, built a team, determined the release strategy, gotten your online presence up nice and good. You've hustled and you've made people aware of the movie and got people to care about it. You've done all that stuff. This sounds exhausting, by the way.
It is.
After all that,
Not going to sugarcoat it.
you have done all this for the movie Sadie.
Yeah.
What have you learned from this experience?
Um,
If you had to do it all over again, would you do it all over
I
again?
would do it again for Sadie.
Yeah.
I don't know how many movies I would say that about going forward. I hope to not have to do it again. It is so hard and it is so exhausting. But the positive spin is that I totally felt empowered. It did go out into the world the way I wanted to see it go out into the world. The conversations that I had at Q&As and at these academic screenings and all these, discussions that happened around the movie at all these different places I went to, it was so fulfilling, and it really just made me feel like it was connecting with people, and it was starting people's minds thinking about youth and violence in a different way, and like how we're training young people to respond to the problems in their lives with violence by the way our society and like our nation responds to problems with violence. And so it's a conversation. I felt like there's a lot of conversations about like school shootings and just violence in general, but there was, I think there is a lack of people taking a look at themselves and what they put into the world and what they support in the world that I wanted to address. That wanted people to look at like who they're supporting, what media they're supporting, what is that doing, and have a little culpability in the fact that there's so many kids out there who are growing up with the idea that violence is a solution to problems.
Understood. Well, really appreciate you coming on here to chat with me about how to get people to see your movie. Tell people where they can find Sadie right now.
I will. So, okay. First of all, I'll say our website is sadiefilm.com. It has all this information. We had a blog that we ran for the entirety of our distribution experience where we basically talked about it in real time. So if you want more details on all the things I just talked about, that's all on the blog. The film is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. It's also available on iTunes and Vudu, and probably a few other places I'm forgetting. But yeah, the easiest way to watch it is just to stream it on Amazon now. And please rate it and write a review. It really, really helps if you enjoy a movie. And I'm not just talking about my movie,
Right.
but any movie that's especially independent. If you can give it a rating and a review, it boosts it in the algorithm and gets more it shows up in more people's recommended lists. And it's really a critical thing that I think hopefully people start doing more.
All right. Well, Megan Griffiths is the writer-director of Sadie, out on Amazon Prime right now and also on other video-on-demand platforms. I'm David Chen, and if you enjoyed this video, hit like or subscribe. I'll be making a couple videos per month in 2019. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Thanks, David.